here we go again. 3% squishing gives you 1% bulging outwards on each side. And the question is, well, people say, well, does this mean that you haven't really compressed steel without changing its volume? And of course, it turns out, by pushing down on it, you have not only distorted it, but you have also changed its volume, and you can see it in this way. If we look at the cross-sectional area, which has gone 1% this way and 1% this way, we see the total gain in cross-sectional area is 2%. You see, this is why I'm using small percentages as numbers, because you can do multiplication just like you're doing addition. You know, when these small approximations, this is the beauty of them. You've gained 2% on cross-sectional area, and at the same time, you've lost 3% on length, so your total change in volume is 1% loss in volume. And we did a kind of an analysis to show where, well, what I said I didn't like this as a basic fundamental description of steel, and I wanted to rephrase our mathematical terms of reference, whereby things would be set up in a more mathematically pleasing description. And the only case I was able to carry out was, I said, if you did your compression from this side, and did it then from this side, and then simultaneously from this side, then what you do is, for example, on this side you squish it down 3%. But then when you push in from this side, you push it back 1%, and then when you push in from this side, you push it back another 1%. So on the whole, you've only managed to come down 1%, although you're trying to go 3%. So the total effect of all those forces, if you push equally from all sides with a force of this kind of magnitude, then all you really accomplish is a total compression, and I'll draw this in a coordinate axis. 1%, 1%, 1%. And what I like about this is your forces are, let's say, 100 pounds, 100 pounds, 100 pounds, and your distortions are 1%, 1%, 1%. You got your forces proportional to your distortions. Whereas on the other hand, you had sort of a cockeyed thing, because you had 3%, 1%, 1% for your distortions, but your forces were 100 pounds, 0 pounds, 0 pounds. So you've got 100, 0, 0, leading to 3, minus 3, 1, 1. Your things aren't in proportional to each other. And so this is a major step forward. But what we've lost something is the ability to describe distortions now, and now we've got to regain that. And we're going to see how that's done after a brief respite to take a musical interlude. Neil, what do we got going today? Guitar's tuned up. Want to do that Randy Travis song?
All right, let's give it a try. Start in C, right?
Yeah. Yeah. This is going out to Brad and Paul down at the Civil Engineering Labs, by the way, who requested it.
2, 3.
Love that I feel for you always will be. Oh baby, you're not just time that I'm killing. I'm no longer one of those guys. As sure as I live, this love that I give is gonna be yours until the day that I die. Shout it, Neil. Gonna love you forever. Talk about the weather as long as old women talk about old men. If you wonder how long I'll be faithful, I'll be happy to tell you again. honey, I don't care. I ain't in love with your hair. If it all fell out, well, girl, I love you anyway. They say time lays tread on your memory, makes people forget things they knew. Well, it's easy to see, girl, it's happening to me. I've already forgotten every woman but you. Oh, baby, I'm gonna love you forever, forever and ever, amen. As long as old men sit and talk about the weather, as long as old women sit and talk about old men, if you wonder how long I'll be faithful, just listen to how this song ends. I'm gonna love you forever and ever, forever and ever, Oh yeah, a couple of blunders in that song, starting with the microphone. We forgot to change keys in the middle. And, well, Randy Travis might be ashamed of us, but hey, he probably doesn't even know calculus, for that matter. Yeah, well, what counts for more, though, really? Let's get back to the board. How much time do we have left? Seriously. Okay, let's see what we can accomplish. Okay. Now, I've described uniform distortion in steel based on the initial description where we said, and this is the laboratory kind of description where you actually pull on it and stretch it a certain amount and measure how much it necks in. But I want to get a better mathematical formulation of this thing, so here's the way I like to do it. Let's draw a coordinate axis here. I said if you came down 3% on this axis, well, let's go with positive figures. Let's say we stretch 3% on this axis. Then I said we lose 1% on this axis, and we lose 1% on this axis. And the forces involved in that were, and I'll draw them to the side, 100, 0, 0. Now, what I'm going to do, and I hope you will just bear with me for a moment, is I'm going to apply forces of a little bit different. I'm going to apply now my force of negative 50 from this side, and I'm going to see what the effects are on everything else. Son of a gun, we're going to be in trouble. I got to go back to the start. I got to put 200 pounds on it here. I got to put 200 pounds because I don't want to deal in fractions. 200 pounds is going to give me 6%, minus 2%, and minus 2%. Everything's in proportion. Is that okay? Okay, now I'm going to put my 100 pounds as the negative direction of the force, which is pulling on it. And that's going to give me 3% stretching on this axis, 1% compression on this axis, and 1% compression on this axis. And for my third case, I'm going to put my negative 100 pounds. Man, I'm getting my signs all wrong, ain't I? Here I had negative 100 pounds, so I should have had negative 3% and positive 1%, positive 1%. Is that okay?
That's good.
Now we'll try and get it right. Negative 100 pounds now from the other axis. And the effect on the distortion of the steel is going to be negative 3, positive 1, positive 1. Now I'm going to add them all up and see what the total composite effect is. The total composite effect on my vertical axis is 1 plus 1 plus 6, which is plus 8. On my this axis this way, so my horizontal axis, I've got plus 1 minus 3 and minus 2. Looks like minus 3, minus 2 plus 1, minus 4. I make it. And my other flat axis is going to be similar. Minus 3 plus 1 and minus 2 adds up to minus 4. Now let me add up the forces that I've used to accomplish this distortion. Well, the forces are very simple to add up because I started out, I applied them only in one direction at a time. I had plus 200 from this axis. I had minus 100 on that axis and minus 100 on that axis. Look what I've accomplished. Now, is it starting to look good if you look at the figures up at the top of the board? My forces are 200, minus 100, 100, minus 100 on the 3 axes. It means I'm pushing down with 200 pounds from above, and at the same time I'm pulling with 100 pounds at the sides. And what are the distortions that I'm achieving? My distortions is that I'm squishing it 8% from above, and it's bulging out on the sides 4% on each side. Now, is it proportional? Look, I've got them all in proportion to each other. Isn't this a tremendous thing? Well, I don't know if you think it's tremendous.
Well, it's surprising because when you had just 100 pounds alone, you had a sort of a non-proportional situation.
Yeah, they were cockeyed when I started out with him, but by pushing them around and mixing him there, this and there, I've managed to get them proportional to each other. Now, this is a remarkable thing, but I could have, you see here I've got my z-axis as my special axis, and the other ones are symmetrical here, and the z one is different. But I could have pulled it from the x-axis or the y-axis, and those could have been my special axis, and then I would have got this same shape tilted on its side. And I would like to ask the audience to consider whether that combination of possible forms of distortion is sufficient to, in a vectorial kind of sense, describe all possible distortions, states of distortion in steel. Notice there is no net compression or expansion in this state. It's a state of pure distortion. Notice also that for similar amounts of forces, like when we had 100 pounds of forces acting all in the same way, trying to compress it, we only got compressions on the order of 1%. Yet with distortional kind of forces of the same magnitude, we get 8 times as much actual stretching. So, in a sense, steel is a lot easier to distort than it is to compress, but it's not impossible to compress. But let's leave this hanging because we've basically run out of time, and we'll pick up the thread of this next week, and that'll just about do it for the show. We're gonna make those guitars ring one more time while we wish our fans goodbye. Play some lead on this one. From the great Atlantic Ocean to the wide Pacific shore, from the ones we leave behind us to the ones we see once more. She's mighty big and handsome, she's quite well known by all. She's a combination called the Wabash Cannonball. Won't you listen to the jingle and the rumbling and the roll as she rolls on past the mountains, through the fields and by the shore. Hear the mighty roar of the engine, hear the lonesome hobo's call. Then you know you're riding on the Wabash Cannonball.